I'm 82 years old, and I'll tell you that I've experienced more in my life than I ever could have imagined. I've had wonderful times and heartbreaking times and everything in between. But out of all those experiences, there's one decision I deeply regret: my move to a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the best decision. Family and even a few well meaning friends told me that you'd get the care you need and comfort 24/7. It would take some of the stress off of you. I thought, okay, maybe this is what I should do. But after I arrived and tried to settle in, I realized that my reality was completely different from the hopeful picture everyone painted. If you're considering moving to a nursing home for yourself or a loved one, I want to share what I wish I'd heard before I took the plunge. It's not that all nursing homes are terrible or that all the staff are uncaring. That's simply not true. However, some aspects of nursing home life can affect you in unexpected ways. And once you're there, turn around. It won't be easy going back. Today, I want to share the 6 biggest regrets I have. I hope you'll listen with an open mind. You may decide that a nursing home is still the right decision for you or a loved one, but at least you'll be prepared for what's to come. Stay with me until the end. Some of these lessons may actually surprise you. If you know someone who is considering making this decision, please share this video with them. It might help them ask questions no one ever told me to ask. The first regret is the loss of independence. When people talk about nursing homes, they usually think of small rooms, communal dining rooms, and daily medical checkups. But for me, the biggest shock was realizing how much independence I had lost. Before I moved here, I had my own life. I chose when to get up. If I wanted to get up at 6 a.m. for sunrise, I did that. If I wanted to sleep until 9, I did that too. I decided when I would eat, when I would go for a walk, and when I would relax in my old chair with a good book. But as soon as I ended up in a nursing home, everything changed. Suddenly, everything was on a strict schedule. Breakfast at 7:30, noon in the evening, no exceptions. Lights out at a set time. Although I wasn't tired yet, when I wanted to go out for some fresh air, I often had to ask permission or wait for someone to come get me. The simplest decisions became privileges I had to ask for, rather than choices I could make on my own. I remember my first week there. I woke up in a bed that didn't look like mine at all. The room was clean and functional, but it had nothing to do with home. My favorite chair wasn't there. My little shelf where I kept my favorite novels was gone. I wasn't surrounded by the little mementos that made my home my personal sanctuary. It was like I'd left my own life and was somewhere else, in an environment I barely recognized. Over time, I noticed that the more I followed their schedule, the less I argued, and the less I remembered what it was like to have complete control over my day. Losing that independence is a profound change. It can make you question your personality because you suddenly realize that all those daily decisions of when to eat, when to rest, when to go outside actually matter more. If you think about freedoms, you may not realize how important these freedoms are until one morning you wake up and realize they are gone. The second regret is the feeling of being forgotten. Another problem that took me by surprise was the overwhelming feeling of being forgotten by the outside world. When I moved, I still felt very close to my family and friends. At first, they came to visit me often. My daughter every week, grandchildren on weekends. I still felt a part of their lives. But as the weeks and then months went by, these visits became less frequent. My daughter usually preferred to call me quickly. The grandchildren were busy with their lives, work, school, relationships. Sometimes for a whole week, I would not have a single visitor. The hardest time was the holidays. Everyone promised me we will come for Christmas or we will come for your birthday. But then something inevitably changed. Maybe my daughter needed car repairs, or my grandson needed, I have an exam to take. So my planned visit was postponed or canceled, and I found myself sitting in the common room with the TV, staring at the front door, hoping for my loved ones to walk through. It's not that my family suddenly stopped loving me, but once you're no longer physically present in their daily lives, you fall out of routine. They think, Yuan must be fine there. She has nurses and a safe room. Maybe she doesn't need much from us. For them, life goes on, and you feel like you're standing on the sidelines watching. I remember one night I picked up the phone, desperately wanting to hear my daughter's voice, but pride stopped me. I didn't want to be a burden or seem intrusive, so I hung up. That day I realized how lonely I was. So here's the question. Are you willing to consider the possibility that people that loved ones visit you less and less simply because life gets in the way? It's a harsh reality to face, and it can make you feel more isolated. If you're still with me, leave a short comment like number 2 to let me know you're listening. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on a ringtone to skip future videos like this. Third regret, loss of purpose in life. Before moving to a nursing home, I didn't realize how much of my sense of purpose was made up of the daily routine at home. I had small tasks to structure: watering plants, cooking, cleaning the living room. I found quiet satisfaction in the tasks. But once I became a resident, everything was taken care of by someone else. They cooked, washed floors, and cleaned. I had nothing to do, and at first I thought, well, maybe it's nice to have a break from housework. But as the days went by, I felt more and more agitated, not relaxed. I noticed what was happening with my new neighbors, too. A man named George had been a carpenter at home for most of his life. He would tinker in the garage, constantly repairing or building something. At the nursing home, all that was gone. He no longer had access to his tools. There were no projects to occupy his hands with. I watched him transform into someone who sat quietly in the hallway, staring at the same walls. Day by day, one afternoon, he confessed to me, "I don't even know what to do with my life anymore." It touched me deeply because I felt the same way. I waited for the time to pass when you have no reason to get up in the morning except to go have breakfast. You stand up and don't live. It's a slow, imperceptible change that can affect your state of mind. So if you're hesitant about moving to a specialized facility, think carefully about what gives your life meaning. It's your garden, baking cookies for your grandchildren. It's volunteering at a local community center, nursing homes, activities. But it's not the same as having a personal purpose. Once there, you have to put in more effort to find everyday tasks or hobbies that ignite that spark in you. Without that struggle, it's easy to get caught in the fog of routine, making you wonder why I'm here. Fourth regret: health is deteriorating faster than expected. Physically, I didn't feel that bad when I moved. I couldn't run marathons, never tried, and didn't plan, but I was relatively active. I could cook my own food, walk around block to do light exercise. But as soon as I got to the nursing home, everything became so convenient. Food was brought to me right at home. If I needed something, I pressed the call button and help came. I spent more time sitting than standing. And here's the problem: the more you sit, the more your body forgets how to stand. My legs started to weaken because I didn't use them that often. I realized this when I tried to get up from a chair and found that it took more effort than before. I was just out of breath. Walking down the hallway, gradually I did less and less things myself. The staff told me, "Don't worry, let me help you," or "We are here to make your life easier." I know what they wanted, what's best. But I began to realize that the easier life became, the weaker I became. My neighbor down the hall, she continued to walk around the building with a walker, determined to stay strong. But as the months went by, I noticed that her activity decreased. She stopped walking, and eventually she needed a wheelchair. One day she told me, "I swear in the last 6 months I have aged 10 years. It happened before my eyes, and I understood perfectly how I felt. If you don't give your body a workout, it ages faster than you think, especially in old age. If you're thinking about being disciplined to keep moving, exercise, pushing yourself, because once you get drunk, it will be much harder for you to sleep." If you're still here listening to me and found these first 4 regrets illustrative, let me know by leaving number 4 in the comments. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please do so. Your support helps us continue creating content. That 5th regret: loss of privacy and dignity. Very shocked by how much I had to sacrifice my privacy at home. I could close the door to the bedroom or bathroom whenever I wanted. No one could come in without warning. I decided what my space would look like, where I would keep my things, and how I would spend time alone. However, in a nursing home, privacy becomes a luxury. Staff come and go to clean, give you medicine, or check on your well-being, often without waiting for the appropriate. Scheduled room checks are common practice, which makes sense from a security standpoint, but it feels like you are constantly being watched. Even something as simple as getting dressed may require help from someone, whether you like it or not. There is also the possibility of sharing a room with a stranger. I was lucky that my roommate turned out to be a kind-hearted person, but others were less fortunate. I have heard of conflicts over noise, hygiene habits, and even the time when the TV is on. And since it is also their own room, hey, you can't do this. We are living in a space that feels more like a hospital than a home. Over time, the lack of privacy begins to wear on you. You begin to feel that you are no longer a person with personal boundaries, but rather a patient in a system designed to be efficient. Dignity is gradually humiliated. For example, when someone enters your room without knocking properly, or has to wait for permission to use M. Therefore, the you are pros and cons of a nursing home. Think about the World Cup. How will you cope with the fact that your everyday privacy will almost completely disappear? I would like to think about this more. HBO. Once you find yourself in such an environment, to regain your previous level of privacy and dignity is almost impossible. 6th regret: the realization that it is harder to leave than you think. Finally, One of the biggest surprises was the realization of how much it can be difficult to leave. If you're already there, I went there thinking it was temporary. If I didn't like it, I'd go home. But reality caught up with me. My house was empty, which meant it was falling into disrepair. My children started selling or giving away things they thought I wouldn't need anymore. Some were even thinking about renting my house by the time I thought about it. I'm not sure if that's it for me. The situation had already gone too far in the other direction. Also, my abilities had changed. I no longer cooked or cleaned for myself. I had lost my strength because I had become less active. The thought of returning to my old house suddenly seemed overwhelming. Would I be able to climb the stairs? Would I be able to handle the physical demands of living alone? My family feared that I would struggle or hurt myself. I couldn't return. Money also became an issue. Nursing homes can be expensive, and if you stay in one for a while, costs mount quickly. Some people have to sell their homes to pay for long-term care. Once that happens, you're essentially closing the door on returning. I've seen soybeans and in Ito, so they didn't leave because they no longer had a home to return to or because their savings were somehow frozen. Ultimately, moving to a nursing home isn't as reversible as people might think. The practical, emotional, and financial obstacles increase with each passing month. You're thinking about this. Keep in mind that getting your life back might not be that easy. How do you imagine? If you're still here, let me know by leaving a comment at number 6. I'd like to know if you're taking all this information into account. Also, if you're not a subscriber yet, I invite you to do so. It helps support this channel and helps us continue sharing important stories and ideas.